When Narendra Modi swept to power in 2014, he carried the promise of a bold new India, free of corruption, transparent in governance, and a great grand economic vision. More than a decade later, the two most dramatic financial reforms associated with his government, the 2016 demonetisation and the 2017 electoral bond scheme, remain among the most scrutinized decisions in modern Indian politics. Ironically, both were also framed as tools to fight black money and curb corruption, while critics, such as the fine print, to a certain extent, argue that the politics and policies have instead entrenched the very problems they promised to solve. Today, Narendra Modi's government faces allegations from those in the opposition bloc of stealing votes and cronyism. On the evening of 8th November in 2016, many Indians watched their Prime Minister announce that 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, which is 86% of the country's cash supply, would cease to be legal tender overnight.
The grip of corruption and black money, we have decided that the 500 rupee and 1,000 rupee currency notes presently in use will no longer be legal tender from midnight to night.
The policy known as Notebandi, in theory, aimed to flush out unaccounted wealth, curb counterfeit currency, and push the economy toward digital payments. What followed was actually chaos. Millions of citizens queued for days outside banks to exchange old notes. Informal economies, overwhelmingly dependent on cash like small businesses, street vendors, and rural workers, grounded to an absolute halt. And when it was all over, the Reserve Bank of India later revealed that over 99% of the demonetized notes were returned to the banking system, undermining the claim by the BJP that hoarded black money would be extinguished from Indian society. For the wealthy and politically connected, it was simple. Their sophisticated channels ensured safe conversions of cash. For daily wage laborers, farmers, and the poor, the policy translated into lost livelihoods as people spent hours queuing at ATMs. If demonetization failed to achieve its intended goals, the electoral bond scheme introduced in 2017 went a step further. It completely rewrote the rules of political donations. The government, the BJP, claimed that many individuals and companies hesitated to fund parties out of fear of political retribution. The logic was by keeping donors anonymous to the public, electoral bonds would supposedly encourage more people to donate. The numbers were staggering. By 2024, over 16,000 crore rupees had been channeled through electoral bonds, with the ruling BJP receiving the lion's share. Critics branded the scheme as legalized corruption, a system where companies could quietly purchase influence and expect regulatory or policy favors in return.
That even loss-making companies could now donate under the electoral bond scheme without any limit. That also has been struck down because the court was of the view that clearly a loss-making company or unlimited corporate funding is not healthy for a democracy, because those kind of donations will be made only for quid pro quo or to get benefit, rather than genuine corporate donations for functioning of a democratic setup.
In February 2024, India's Supreme Court had to intervene. They struck down the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional, and the judgment was a long time coming. By shielding the identities of donors, the scheme violated the basic right of a citizen to information and tilted the playing field in favor of those in power. Transparency, the court held, was essential to a thriving democracy. Taken together now, demonetization and electoral bonds illustrate the paradox of Modi's anti-corruption crusade. On one hand, Notebandi was a direct and devastating assault on the cash economy, justified as an attempt to root out shadow money. On the other, electoral bonds quietly opened a new channel for opaque political funding at unprecedented scale. The effects are just simply asymmetric. Cash was delegitimized for ordinary citizens, and anonymity was legalized for political contributions. Now, the question is, did the Bharatiya Janata Party legalize corruption? Legally, no. Bribery remains a crime, graft remains punishable. But by enabling a system where massive, elusive funds could legally flow into party coffers, BJP's government definitely restructured corruption.